Currently, Hyundai carries two polarizing reputations. One is a comeback story. They went from making cars you might be embarrassed to drive to making vehicles that push boundaries when it comes to features and design for the money. They've even produced cars that have left some enthusiasts needing a change of pants. The other reputation is that these turds on wheels do nothing but burn oil, lie, catch on fire, and drop transmissions like a transmission dropper. It's true that the brand has made some remarkable improvements, but there are some flaws we shouldn't ignore, and that applies here. The Kona is a versatile, comfortable, and sharp-looking crossover. Dig past the surface and you'll see that a few corners were cut and the price jumped over $2,000. Despite that, the first reason why I'm going to recommend the Hyundai Kona is for its value. For 2024, you have nearly 6 inches more of car. It also has a smooth shape with angular lines to make for a pretty distinct look. One that has also garnered a lot of hate. Maybe my frontal lobe isn't fully developed because I think it looks sharp and more expensive than what that price suggests. Let me know what you guys think. Even if you go with the base model, you'll have LED headlights and taillights with a full wraparound light bar. Up front, you'll only find this one on the Limited, but even that $25,000 SE comes with proximity entry, body-colored door handles, mirror caps, and alloy wheels. You can also get the N-Line, which will paint that cladding and add an obnoxious spoiler. Though it is just a big helping of rice. If you want more actual performance, you might have to go back to last year and grab a Kona N. Regardless, I'm happy that this still caters to a $25,000 audience without stripping anyone of their dignity. I'm also happy to say that if you do want extra features, you can get a 360 view camera, and you can even get neat tricks like a creep feature. This continues on the inside. We'll find available leatherette upholstery, ventilated front seats, a heated steering wheel, and a power tailgate, but that's not what I like the most. Beyond this having a ton of features, this interior is fresh and functional. Hyundai has found a great blend between tech and physical controls. Your radio and media are touch. Your volume and tune controls are knobs. The HVAC are buttons and toggles, and the shifter is rotational. Unless you get the base power plant, which does forfeit some storage, but I do prefer the big lever. And you also have wireless CarPlay and Android Auto on every trim now. The infotainment is quick, high quality, and pretty easy to use. My only complaint is it's kind of far away. I really need to lean in order to use it. Still, that and the adjacent digital cluster are functional, and from what I've seen, the setup remains similar for every trim. The seats were also a pleasant surprise. They're supportive for long journeys. They have some mild bolstering to keep you in place, and lumbar adjustment comes on most. The Bose sound system bumps nicely with an itty-bitty subwoofer back there, and it stays relatively crisp at high volume. The storage is fantastic and even a little configurable with these cup holders that are spring-loaded. And the whole thing feels well constructed. Though as much as they try to play around with textures and accents, it is virtually all a hard touch plastic. And the elbow rest could use a little more soft touch padding, but overall, I think Hyundai put their money in the right places. It has a wow factor, yet it doesn't let these aesthetics step in the way of it being a sensible cabin. And its versatility deserves some more recognition. So let's talk about that. I'm 6'3", and I feel like I have plenty of space up front. It's not difficult to get in and out of, and I can sit behind myself with great levels of comfort for this class. Headroom, legroom support, they're all there, and console vents will be standard on the SEL. The cargo space is also impressive, and each one will have a compact spare tire. While I don't think they're extraordinary, I do think the Kona offers the right powertrain choices. On the more affordable grades, you'll find a 2-liter naturally aspirated port-injected inline-4. With 147 ponies, there's not much that the smooth and responsive CVT can do to make it feel lively. I would expect 0 to 60 in around the 9-second range. Spend some more money and you can get the relatively proven 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-pot that won't make this feel quick or give it character, but it does provide some healthy passing power. 0 to 60 comes up in about 7.6 seconds. For the new generation, Hyundai dropped the 7-speed dual-clutch transmission and went with a traditional 8-speed auto. Hyundai's 7-speed wasn't known for refinement or toughness, so I'm not too upset by that. I do have one complaint. Even in the sport mode, there's a pretty substantial lag to passing maneuver inputs. From a stop, it's usually pretty smooth, the shifts are seamless. It helps make good use of the plentiful mid-range power, but from a roll, it's like acceleration is a new language. It understands what you're saying, but it needs a second to process and respond. Gas mileage with either powertrain is middling according to the EPA, but according to the car and my local fuel pump, I was able to easily beat the gas mileage with mostly highway driving. If you want the lowest running costs, they also make an electric Kona. While the peak charging rate is unimpressive, the range is alright. The power is solid and the price is reasonable. Available on every trim except for the EV is all-wheel drive. This will be Hyundai's H-Track setup and it is not for off-roading. It does have a lock function which will tell the system to always divert some torque to the rear wheels. There's a snow mode that can reduce throttle and try to reallocate torque side to side using the brakes. But there's not a whole lot of trickery here. From what I've seen, for most usage, it'll work fine. But if you're actually planning on taking this to some really remote camping spots, I might advise going with a Subaru Crosstrek, especially in wilderness kit. And through corners, there are more athletic cars in the class, but I do appreciate this steering. It's quick enough, there's a cough of feedback pumped through to your hands. I like how this builds up in weight. It feels nice and predictable. Here in the sport mode, it's got a little bit of a heft to it as well, which helps distinguish it further from a regular economy car without ever becoming a nuisance at parking lot speeds. But this is relatively soft and there is a noteworthy amount of body roll. It's not eager to change direction. Take corners on a bad road and the car feels secure, but it can get a little floaty. Some others in the class offer more poise. Over disturbing Indiana back road, you do feel most of the imperfections here with the Kona. I do think it does a good job of smoothing most of them out, hit larger potholes, and they can definitely crash into the cabin. So I wouldn't say the ride quality is stellar, and it might get slightly worse over repeated bumps if you go with a front-wheel drive model, because those have torsion beam rear suspension, and the all-wheel drive, like I have here, has independent. And another reason why I've come to appreciate the Kona is the highway driving experience. For the money, this is a quiet car. I took it to the Newport Aquarium 150 miles away, and it was great. Road and wind noise were pretty muffled. The seats were comfortable. I never felt fatigued. The active driving aids worked well. The Limited even comes with blind spot view cameras. Every trim gets blind spot monitoring and a really good lane centering, though adaptive cruise control is actually an option. So all this is great, but what about the reliability? Well, I can't talk about this current generation just yet, but we can look at the previous generation that utilizes the same engine. So some of the most consistent problems were related to the blind spot monitoring systems and excessive oil consumption. Now, they did catch a lawsuit and release a recall, and that doesn't seem to be reported after 2021. The old DCT received some complaints for overheating in strenuous settings. A few others have had injectors fail prematurely, along with some infotainment problems and noisy steering caused by bad clock springs. But owner reviews on cars.com are positive. They're not too great over on Edmunds. That said, no model year had an insane number of complaints. And since they're reusing the old powertrain, I'm not scared of the Kona, especially with the 2-liter front-wheel drive. But I have run into my own quality issues with this car. The light bar has a couple of dim spots already. There's a mysterious electronic whirring sound that's constantly on and only goes away after 10 minutes of the car being shut off. And my largest concern comes from what I believe is the rear differential that has a vibration with low-speed acceleration while turning. As more heat was introduced, the issue became more prevalent. While it is worthy to mention that Hyundai carries some of the longest warranties in the business, with Hyundai's hit or miss pass, I don't feel comfortable recommending this to folks that really prioritize reliability just yet. For a lease, have at it. Okay, let's recap the downsides. There's quite a few hard touch materials, the screen is far away, the 8-speed transmission has some lag, I can't vouch for the reliability just yet, and I think the ride could be more supple. When considering what people want from a small SUV, the drawbacks to the Kona aren't awful, but there's definitely enough to keep this from achieving objective best-in-class status. But the effort that Hyundai put into the new Kona makes this more than worthy of a look, and I can't wait to compare this head-to-head with the other segment leaders. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like to help me take on the maniacal YouTube algorithm. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more fun, detailed car content without fluff. Consider becoming a channel member for an additional podcast and to help me take this to another level. I'll catch you in the next one.